Would you stop telling everybody that I was abusive to you? Why? People are gonna think I'm a bad person. I mean, to be fair, you mean people are gonna know you're a bad person. You did what I say you did. Yeah, okay, but they don't know that, and I tell them that you're a liar. You're making me look bad.
I currently cannot walk normally, and I'm struggling to stand. And people often ask me, well, where's your father? And this is the story about how he has abandoned me to die 3 times and more. Terrible person. It's not your job to understand why a person is terrible. It definitely is not your job to try and find excuses for why they're acting the way they are. It's everyone's job to hold them accountable. And definitely not to force the victim to feel like they did something wrong. So let me tell you about my father. And the reason why this is important is that Desi culture specifically has this belief that you're supposed to hide your parents' cruelties. Except he's not my parent anymore in anything that is other than biological. And let me tell you how. In 2010, 2011, I had a tumor in college. Except the symptoms for my tumor had begun 4 years prior. They got worse when I got to university, but my father refused to allow me to go and get it checked because he didn't want to spend the money. During those 4 years of college, he also regularly would message me to remind me about how many cars and houses he could buy himself with the money he was spending on my education. I was an international student, which meant I could not work, nor was I entitled to any loans. During college, there were 3 different months where he decided not to send me money for food. Eventually, my roommates, who actually came from poor backgrounds, would notice after a few days, and then they would feed me. One time, he didn't send me money for the mandatory health insurance, and I got sick, and I had to overdraft my account to go see the student health service. Finally, he allowed me to go get checked. And by the time I got checked, the tumor, which had made it difficult for me to swallow, had now grown and was a massive, life-threatening tumor. I happened to be in Washington, D.C., and because it was so rare and so dangerous, I became a research case. And as an international student, if your tuition isn't paid, your visa is canceled, and you go home. It does not matter whether or not you have medical needs. So, at this point, he has divorced our mother. That's their stories to share. And while everyone is focused on me, who could not go anywhere for the winter break because I was getting treated, he uses that as cover and just flies out of the UAE without giving proper resignation. Which means he takes himself to a place where the law can't follow him. Not to forget, the tumor was most likely caused by secondhand smoke from my father. He left me for dead. He didn't send the tuition payment. I then had to talk to the vice president of the university, explain that I was on the verge of dying and in research treatment, and they had to pull strings to ensure my visa wasn't revoked so I could still get treatment. Now you might be thinking, surely he must be very tight on funds. No. The man is a multi-millionaire. He had multiple properties in Dubai, a few in UK, many in Pakistan. What he did was just follow through on what he always said, which is, I made this money. Why should I spend it on my children? And once my life was on the line, he made a call that it was more important to him to save his own money for himself than spend it on keeping his kid alive. At that point, our relatives had to step in and cover my tuition and take care of my siblings and my mom. Now, it gets worse. I happened to get sick again. We're not sure why. It was unpredictable. 4 times nearly that I nearly died, and about that many times where I got completely disabled. One time I ended up in the States again because the doctors in Pakistan just said, hey, your life's on the line. You need to get back there. Once I was back in the States, people, friends, they let me stay with them on couches. It was meant to be a 2-week trip. The doctors couldn't figure it out. I ended up spending like 6 months there. He shows up with his friend about an hour's drive outside of Washington, D.C., and I get a message. And then he offers to send me, I think it was like $500 a month or something. And the weird part about this is he has my bank details. He could just send it anytime. Next time I saw him and discussed this with him was in about 2019, where he sat across from me and made a point to tell me in his 5-bedroom huge house that he lives in by himself about how he actually owns most of the street he lives on and how he's doubled his wealth in the last 10 or so years since he flew out of Dubai and stopped taking care of his own children. Later that day, he drops me off at a medical lab where I had to get blood tests. And when I ask him if he wouldn't mind covering them, like, I don't know, 20, 30 US dollars, which I didn't have because I was sick, he said, use your mother's. 10 years later, it's the same decision. Your children's lives don't matter to you. You just want to be able to tell people that they do. In fact, you like to pretend that you've been wronged, that we are just turning down your money, that you're sending transfer after transfer to our bank accounts to help take care of us, but we keep sending them back, which is insane. Now, let me talk a little more about college. During college, those 3 months where he used to send me money for food, he'd always make a point of calling, usually while traveling and shopping, often in London. And he later said it was to teach me a lesson. The reason I'm making this video is for those folks who are wondering, hey, why isn't Sabel talking to his father or asking for help, is because whenever we do, at best, we get a few $100s. And then on top of that, because for him it's the abuse of power, you have to text him every single day. And if he's in a bad mood, it's your problem. And if you get it wrong, well, then the money is gone. And it's never enough to actually help or change your life, but it is enough to ensure that he gets someone to abuse. I'm done being abused. People should know that. He's just a very cruelly abusive person. Currently, I can't walk, can't stand. Life's getting hard. Who knows exactly what happens financially in the future? It's no one else's responsibility other than my parents. My mom is unable to help, and my father doesn't want to. And by the way, he has my bank accounts. He doesn't need to talk to me. If he actually wanted to, he could just send the money. So, please, if you want to talk to me about what's going on, do not tell me to talk to my father.